So how do you set up a Webflow website fast? Say you have the designs ready and your client wants this website ready by tomorrow. You have this tight deadline and you want to build this website fast. You want to make sure that it's responsive, the spacings are clean, everything is laid out properly in this short period of time. So here's where Relume comes in. Relume is a component library that helps you build websites fast. It has over 1000 components, so you have a lot of choices of layouts, and even if you don't find the layout from these components, you can kind of make your own and put them together, and you'll have this website done in minutes. So in today's video, we're going to take this design and we're going to convert it into Webflow. We're going to use the Relume components. We're going to use the website AI builder from Relume. It's going to be a really cool tutorial. So without boring you with all this talk, let's see how this is done. All right, so what I have here is this desktop mobile design, and I want to convert this into Webflow using Relume. First thing I'm going to do is break down the components that I have. So I have a navbar, I have a hero section, a feature section or middle section, portfolio section. I have a header as well, some sort of header section, pricing section, and a footer. So now that I broke down my design, I know what I want. I will go to the Relume, and why I use Relume is because it's a very big library. It has a lot of layouts, and if I don't find the layout I'm looking for, I can put together 2-3 different layouts and come up with something that matches my designs. So this is what we're gonna do here. Now there are two ways to do this. First way is to, of course, go to the Relume library. You can browse the component library and find the components that you're looking for, copy paste them into Webflow, you have your project ready. However, we're going to use the site builder, the AI site builder. We're not going to use the AI much. We're just going to use the site builder feature itself. And I think it's a very good feature that helps you bring your wireframes together very quickly. And thanks also to Style Guide, which we're going to see in a bit, you can make this happen very fast. So you can have a starting point for your project really fast. So let's see how to do that. Now, I'm not going to use the prompt, but you can prompt anything and basically creates the content, the pages, the layouts for you. You can specify how many pages you'd want, but in our case, we just have the one page and we know what layouts and what content we want to use. So I'm just going to build this here directly. So I'm going to add a section. First thing I want to add is a navbar, and then I want to add a hero header, and then I want to add a feature section, and then I want to add a portfolio list, and then a header, another header, and then I have a pricing section, that's pricing, then we have a footer, so that's footer. So now I have the same sections or laid out sections that I have in my designs. Now that I have this done, I can go to wireframes. As you can see, it puts together these sections from the library automatically. I don't know if this is random or it does it based on preferences, but here I can go and change the ones that I don't want. So in the case of the navbar, I want something that matches my design. So as you can see, my navbar is just a logo and a hamburger menu button. So let's go back to Relume, and I'm going to replace this component with navbar 4. Now I'm familiar with the library, I use it a lot, so I know what to look for, but it's always nice to go through them every once in a while, especially when they release new components, and I have signed up to their newsletter, so I get these updates immediately. So it's always nice to have that. Let's continue. Now we want the hero section to be, we're gonna get header 105. So this is something similar to what we have in our design. And then we're going to replace this one with layout 484. There it is, actually. And basically, this is a nice layout that has this highlight text on scroll. And we're going to add the images to match our design, these two images on top. Next, we have this portfolio section. So let me go back. So this portfolio section, and as you can see, you can change, you have variations of your component here. So you have type 1, type 2. I'm going to choose type 1 because I want this title and subtitle here. I don't want this button, and if you don't want something, you can just basically delete it. Some items can be deleted, some cannot. I think this cannot be deleted. However, of course, you can delete them there in Webflow. Next, we have this header section. So I'm going to replace this with header 47. It's more like it. And then pricing section, we want pricing 5. And then the footer section, we want footer 15. And if you go back to the design, Yeah, that's more like it. So now we have almost all our page ready. Again, you can always go here and delete stuff or add more links. So I'm going to delete all these links. Again, this is something that you can do here. You can do in Webflow, but in my case, I just wanted to demonstrate that this can be done here. Of course, you can go together with the AI and ask it to rephrase or rewrite this text. You can also do that in Webflow, thanks to the new AI introduced there. Now that we have the wireframe ready, we can go ahead and copy this to Webflow, but first we're going to check out this new style guide feature. The style guide is in beta version, so I tried to play around with it. As you can see, I can add my logo, I can add my font, I can add my colors, and I can see how it looks like, but it's not yet available to export to Webflow. So this is something that's probably coming very soon. As of this video, this is not there. So we're going to use the manual way, the old way, which is exporting the wireframes themselves to Webflow. So we're going to export to Webflow. And as you can see, we're going to, first thing, we're going to clone a style guide. So we click on clone style guide and we get this Relume style guide. By the way, we can always set the preferences. First, let's get the Relume style guide. So let's clone it. All right, so let's create glimpse. It's called glimpse, not an E. So we create the site. It's creating. All right, so we have our Relume site. Let's zoom out a little bit. Let's get the navigator in by pressing Z. And as you can see here, this is done with the structure preset. So you can go here where the div block that says delete this and delete this. And then we can go to main wrapper. We can go back to our Relume project and we can install the Webflow app. This is something that you can do. However, I can just copy paste this, so no need for the Webflow app. You can just click on the page here, click on Command C, and then I will go to my Webflow project and I click on Command V in the main wrapper. And I think it's going to come with some page wrappers. Okay, so that's no problem. I can just click on Command Shift G and unwrap this. So now I have my layout just right in the main wrapper. And actually, let's bring this out and let's unwrap this. Okay, so my main wrapper is all this stuff and page wrapper has the rest. So now that's here, let's start styling. Now, first thing is to get the Relume extension. And this is great because it's going to help you synchronize your classes. It's going to help you get the SVG icon converter. So let's see how that is used. So let's copy our logo here. If I go back to my project, I can copy this as SVG. Then I go back to my project and I just click here on the link because I want it inside this link, and I click Command C, and then this model pops up and I select the size that I want. Let's say I want to preserve the SVG size, the original size, and then I'll style it myself. So as you can see, it comes here in SVG. This is an embed that is already set to current color. It's set up properly for you to use. Width and height is 100%, so that's great. It's just preset for you, ready to use. Don't have to worry about anything. Let's remove the preset logo and let's change the color. Actually, we're going to change a lot of colors, so let's do that. So first, I'm going to close. I like to collapse everything if I want to change the body. So I'm going to select the body and I'm going to go here and go to body all pages. My background primary is going to be not white. It's going to be neutral dark. So that's great because this is the color I have. And then my text color is going to be E5. Let's see if this is there. E5, it's not there, but that's okay. So we can go to text primary and change the text primary color to, so if we can disconnect, we can disconnect. So we can just change it from here, text primary color, and this will be white. Let's say we'll use this neutral lightest. Now, of course, we can just go to variable. So neutral lightest, we can say this is E5, E5, E5. So that matches the color that's here. Great. And now this is E5, E5, E5. So that's great. All right. So now we have this set up. Now let's style the main components. The button, for example, is, so it's mostly a link. So let's style this. So I'm going to remove all the paddings. So this is all 0 and there is no underline. This is, let's see the properties of the typography. So we're using regular, we're using 16 pixels, and -4% letter spacing. So let's go to letter spacing. We'll go minus 0.04 EM, and that means -4%. And the letter is 16. The weight is correct. We'll need to set the font, but we'll do that in a bit. And we'll need to set this layout for this part. So let's select that. I don't need two buttons. I'm going to delete the second button. I don't need this margin top div, so I'm going to delete that. And I want these two divs to be wrapped in one div. So we're going to wrap those in a div, and we're going to name this. Now I have another extension, which is the Lumus extension, which allows me some extra shortcuts, which I like. And this shortcut, I can just press on the right arrow and I get the names of the folders that I'm inside right now on the navigator. So in my case, I'm in home folder and then a subfolder, which is called hero header. And now I can create another subfolder, which is called, let's say, paragraph layout. Of course, you can name this as you want, but I want to name this paragraph layout, and I want to flex this to be flex align bottom and between space between. Then I have this paragraph. I'm going to copy this text, and we want to give this text some max width. So its max width is 570. So we can wrap this in another div block and call this max width medium. What's 570 in rems? Almost 35, so that's great. And we'll need to change the size of this text to be text size large. That's not large enough, so we have 40 divided by 16, that's 2.5. So we need a 2.5 text. Let's get heading h3. That's exactly what we need. And the weight, we need to add, what's the text weight? Medium. All right, it's not doing it. Let's pull it. Sometimes these break, so I don't want actually medium. I want text weight regular, normal. They're not set up properly, but that's fine. And finally, we have this -4%. So I see this often, so I'm just gonna set it up to body all pages, and I will set up the letter spacing to be -0.04 EN, so that all the text just wraps up in that size. Next, I wanna write this. So I have a glimpse. Let's start from here. A glimpse into the extraordinary. So we want this, and we actually don't want the span. Select this part, and we can remove the span, and we can fix this up. We want to remove this long text, but we want the span. So what I'm gonna do is just I'm gonna add a space. Actually, wait, I'm gonna add a space and leave it like this. And then I'm gonna adjust the span to match what I have in my design. So I can see the span is basically just pushing it by padding and adding a background image. Let's add the background image that I got. So I exported these stuff, and we will want background image, which is actually not exported. Very nice preparation. So let's bring this image. I want this photo. So I got this photo from Unsplash, so I can view this in Unsplash directly. Let's see if this works. Nice. Okay, so I'm gonna download this in a large size, and then I will go back to my Webflow project. Change this, and go back to the Webflow project. We'll change the background to the image that we just got. So we go to downloads and get this image. Now we're gonna center it, we're gonna tell it to cover, and no tiles, and that's great. There is some spacing, so it has this 24 spacing. So we're just gonna give this a 24 space. So now it looks more like it. We can continue by giving this a max width, let's say, of this longest text. So that's 1084. So we can give this a max width of 1084 pixels. Actually, it's still very huge, but it's not a problem. Okay, So what we can do is give it a line break, just for the text to match the style here. I would perhaps wrap each line in a div block, or perhaps add some split lines, a split type JS library to split those. However, for this purposes, we're just gonna keep it simple. As you can see, a glimpse into the extraordinary is the same in mobile and desktop, so I'm just gonna keep it as such. I'll just change the font color and the font size. So we have 134, the size is 134, so that's 134. Almost 8 rems. The height is 74%, and it's not bold, it's semi-bold. Get it semi-bold, and yeah, I would give it more height because I think it's too low. This thing, we can also adjust it to not be as high, so we can say this is 80%. All right, so this is more like it. Let's get this explore, and this will say menu, glimpse menu. This is great. Next, I see that there is not much more. So is this 40 margin? Now what I can do is I can remove this padding section large and add my padding directly into the section. So in this case, it's, let's say, 40 from top and bottom, and this will help me get this more like my design. And then I have this space here, so we can, let's say, set this header component into a 90 dynamic view height, and then we will remove this max with large, and also this margin button, we can keep those, and then this we're gonna space it out with a flex vertical and space between. Nice. Now let's get the font. Let's add the font, which is Instrument Sans. All right, so let's go to fonts. Let's add Instrument Sans, and we want to get it in these variants, and we add the font. That's great. We can go back to open site. All right, so we have our font. Now we can go to body all pages, and set the font to be Instrument Sans, which is right there. All right, so this is looking kind of like our design. We're getting to a good starting point. I would reduce this a bit. Maybe my screen size is too small, but yeah, I would reduce this a little bit to be 80 or perhaps even 70, just to not break a lot. Here I would remove that. I'll make it auto, and yeah, I'll just give it some margin or gap in between, so 40, and this text will be a minimum of 40. So let's go back. 40 divided by 16 is 2.5. So here it's, let's say, 4, and then in tablet it's 2.5. That's what I need. I just keep it 2.5, and then center it. And we'll come back to center it even further, but let's go back to see how the paragraph is acting here. So the paragraph is heading 3, size 24. Here it will be 24, 1.5, and this div block will be vertical and centered. A unit text will be centered. There's a long space. Actually, it's not 40, it's way more. Let's go back to mobile, tablet. Where did we set this? 40 here. So it'll be 120. Let's say 120. If we go back, that's more like it. So now we proceed to do the next section. So let's bring this text here, paste it here. This is going to be a regular text, size 40. So 40 divided by 16 is 2.5. So I'm going to change this to 2.5. This will be normal text, and then this tagline here, actually, and this margin button, I'm gonna add a grid. So I will add, where is the grid? Oh, the grid is now down here. Yeah, they changed the place of the grid, so this is something we need to know about. Again, I have the Lumus extension, so I can just press right Let's name this into features images underscore grid, and this will be a grid. So if I go to the settings of the grid, I want it to be one row, and I have one image larger than the other, so I will say this is 1.5 FR and this is 0.75. And then this is the grid layout I basically want, and I will add two images. So I will add a div block and then an image inside it. These images will be these images. So I'm just gonna export these. So when I export from Figma, I like to export always in 2x if it's a PNG, and then I export it. And this helps me get the image in a better resolution and a good resolution without losing quality, because that's something that happens when you export images from Figma. So I brought this image, and then I want another div block here to bring in the second image, which is this one. And now we have it. Another thing I like to do frequently on project is when I have some special elements, I go to my page wrap and I set it to overflow clip. And this helps keep everything in the middle. There won't be any accidental horizontal scrolling, even if the screen size is too narrow or too small. I also like to go to body and go to body all pages and give it a custom property of text wrap pretty. And this helps keep text aligned. As you can see here, it brought this text into 3 lines. In my design, there are 2 lines, and perhaps I will change my max width to, let's say, max width large. Max width large. And perhaps we will add another one, which is called max width semi-large, which will be 40 rems. That's more like it, because I just want them in 2 lines. And this is fine. Now I continue to my next section, and I can get this feature section. So first I get this titled featured works, and this will be a heading 1 size, so that's 80. So I can unwrap this heading. I can bring it out. I can remove these. This where it says text align center, I will say text align left. This will be H1 style. And H1 style will have 80. That's 5 frames. And now I want this to wrap, so I'm gonna wrap it in a div block that is what is the size? Say 444, so 27. So let's say max width small. That's good. And finally I want this to be weight normal, medium, actually medium. Finally the height will be 1, so I can remove this to be 1. And it's looking good. This is looking like what we have. Now let's add this set of images that I have here. Untitled folder, I have this image, and I have this image and this image, so I'm gonna get those. I will add this one here. So let's change image. Let's get this one here. Great. And then we continue copying our design. So we have this lifestyle portrait. Now this can be a CMS. I sometimes set these up, and whenever there's a CMS, I just bring them out. So here I'm just gonna copy this layout because I have description first and then the title. Title is medium size 24. 24 is good, but it's not medium. So let's keep that medium. And yeah, this is looking like it. There is no button. I see there's no button. Is there a button? There is a button group. I think it's the same color as the background, so we don't see it. And now that we have this is great. We're gonna take a break. I'm gonna go drink some water. All right, so let's continue. Now if we go back to the design, what we have here is this section of 2 blocks. So we're gonna go back. Let me move me a little bit away. We have this list item and this list item. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna wrap this div block, and we're gonna go and name it portfolio list split, and this basically will be a grid of 2. We're gonna remove the rows, so it'll be a grid of 2 items. I'm gonna duplicate. Of course, we're gonna change the image. We have this image and this one. Here we have them laid out in a portrait mode, kind of. So we're gonna go to the image itself here, this wrapper, the image wrapper, the div that has the image itself, and we're gonna give it a ratio of portrait, but we're just gonna add an extra class. I'm gonna say is portrait because we want to affect only the ones that are here and not the one in the top. And this combo class will make the ratio as portrait. And we're going to do the same here. We're going to go to the div that is the wrapper, and we're going to add that combo class. And now we have it almost similar. There is this overlay, so let's first copy the text. As we saw here, this will be the other way around, and the same here. Move this out. All right, so we have this almost the same. Let's copy some texts, and for the sake of aesthetics, and there you go. Now we have it ready. We can add the overlay, so we can go to the image list wrapper. We can set it to position relative and add a div block inside, and we can call this again, we can press right and we can call this overlay, and it will be absolute, and it will just cover, and we're gonna add the overlay as a background. So if you go here, you can see overlay. Now this might be something that is on hover. I'm not sure because it says of view work. This one doesn't have an overlay, but that's something we can easily manipulate with Webflow interactions or GSAP or however you want to make animations. I like CSS properties. That's my new way to make efficient animations. So that's that. Let's continue. So we have this section next. Now, as you can see, there is this 120 margin. It's kind of like the default paddings in the section. So 120 divided by 16, that's 7.5. Let's check if that's the padding large. So we're using padding section large everywhere. That's 7. This is almost the same, so we can stick to that. Let's continue. Let's copy this title. So we have philosophy here. We don't have a tagline, so we can remove that one. Let's see the text here. So this is heading 1. It's 80, so that's 5. Great. It's medium, so this is good. Let's copy this text, add it here. And this text will be 40, so it'll be heading 3, H3, because 40 is 2.5. The weight will be normal, and then we have the button. We have this icon with the button, so we're gonna copy this as an SVG, go back to our button, and we're gonna delete the other button. We're gonna make a div block, a link block. That will be a new button. We're gonna give it the same class, which is button, and we're gonna add a text block inside, and this will say make an offer, and then we're gonna add the SVG. So as we saw before, we just copied it as SVG, and we go to the div block where we want to paste it, and we click or we press Command V, and then we can preserve the SVG size, and this will bring it. Might take a second. All right, so here it is. Now I can set this to flex center, and actually flex left, and then let's see how much distance. There's 8 pixels distance, so this, instead of setting it for width and height, we can just actually remove this. Let's name it button icon and set it up to be the same size as the one in Figma. So that's 20 pixels, and then the button will have a gap of 8 as we saw before, so we'll have some space. We remove this button here, and then we have our make an offer button. Looks good, and now we can continue. So next we have the pricing section. So this section, we might change a lot in it. So let's collapse everything and let's begin changing stuff. All right, so here we'll say, actually, let's copy this one since it's already styled. We'll paste it here and this will say pricing. As you can see, I like copy pasting stuff because this will ensure that I'm using similar styles, similar classes, and I don't get confused with any of those. By the way, if I can zoom in a little bit, the proportions might change, but I just need to see better. This screen is so small. Next, we have the pricing section. The pricing section, probably this will be a sticky and this will scroll. So let's add this layout. So let's make it happen. What we will do is we will remove this section large. This we will change, we will convert to div block and it will be flex, yes. And then this section home pricing component will be a flex horizontal and will be position relative. Max width large here, we can unwrap it. So we have margin button. What we can do actually is instead of flex, we can set it to grid. So they're always, centered or they have the right frame rate. And we remove the rows. It's still relative. And this margin button, I can remove this margin and I can say heading, or let's see if this is, home pricing, sticky head. And let's go back to home pricing component. We'll just make sure that line is top and then we'll go back to this sticky header and we set it to sticky position, sticky 0 from the top, and this will make it stick to the page when we scroll through. Nice. Let's continue. Now this second section, what we have is a title of 40 pixels and then a paragraph of 16 pixels. All right, let's do that. So add a div block on the top, and this will be home pricing, titles, and then we'll add heading. This will be heading 3, and then we'll add a paragraph. Let's copy this. And this will be H3 and will be median, right? And actually this is 724, so let's give it that size. So let's go to grid and go here and give it a min of 720, let's say, so that this is a minimum and the maximum is 1 frame rate. So that's good. Next, we want to put a space here between the headings, so we can always use the spacers that the style guide from Relume provides. So you can use spacer small, for example, that's 1.5, which is 24. Maybe we use spacer medium, and this is something you can set up previously, and perhaps sometimes I add the numbers to them so that I am aware. So if we preview this right now, it's almost similar to what we have because this text needs to be in 2 lines. Let's continue. So why is this text not in 2 lines? What if we increase this to, let's say, 750? Okay, now it's in 2 lines, and then we'll have to do this here as well because this has to be a minimum of 750 so they align. However, this will only appear here, not even. So how do we make them align? Let's have a look. Oh, so they're not actually aligned. This section is way bigger, so that's okay. So perhaps we can remove this from here. So we can Control Z, just everything. All right. So next we will get this paragraph to have this faded color. So we have this color which is 666. Text color fade. It's not there. We can create it, and this would be 666. I'm not sure. This color is there. Neutral. Great. So now we have this section. This heading will be all caps, and we'll just set it to all caps, and we'll have a dot at the end, and this is great. Now in this section, it's not looking good, so let's reduce this Well, let's make this into 0. And we're just going to reduce this frame to be 0.5. And this way it's more, maybe 0.75. Yeah, that's more like it. So if we preview this, yeah, that's more like it. We continue. So what we have here is this pricing div. So we can get the same pricing div here and change things around. So we just get this on the top, and we want to make this 100%, and we want this to not be white and to have a white border though. So get the white border. So actually white, it's the 666 color, the neutral base. So let's do that. Let's give it that color, which is this one, neutral. So now it has that border. So here it will say limited time offer. Basically we can go to this div block. Let's see how this is done. So there's the header, there's this margin, remove, there's this margin button. You can remove this one. So all we need is the titles and the features, and we just need one row of features. So we can go to this list, see how it's set up. So it's set up in a grid. We can set it in a flex vertical, and we can also remove this bit, bring the button here like that. This will be vertical, and this will be a grid aligned top. Perfect. So we get this limited time offer text. This is heading 40, so it's a 24 size. Just add it here. 24 divided by 6, and this is correct. So let's give it the text color fade. So it's the right color. We remove this Lorem Ipsum. I don't want a margin button, so I'm gonna unwrap this. The pricing, top right. So this pricing, and I can just copy, because it might be 2 div blocks. So I'm gonna copy this, only 250. This size will be 40. So let's give it H3. That's 40. And then I'm gonna add another, or just duplicate this. And actually this will be size 16. So maybe not a heading, we'll just get a paragraph. And it will say per hour, and it will have text color fade. Great. And then we will do this in a flex. We align it button, and then we will just find out it has 8 gaps. So we'll add that 8 gap. Perfect. Next, we have this button, order now. Now this is something we can just copy from here and paste here. Just collapse everything. Check this out. So remove this button, and we have this done. Let's see what's the spacing. So between these it's 16, and between this is 32. So we have that done right. Padding top left. So we can add this inside here, and this will have, instead of flex, actually let's just add a spacer, because that's less CSS, less code. Spacer X small. Perfect, that's what I need. This is something I always set up before. I didn't do it here because the video took too long, but I always like to set up my spacers before so that I don't get confused and keep trying different spacers. I really don't like that. Let's copy the spacer here as well. And here it's going to be 40, right? 32. So here perhaps we use spacer medium, and that's 32 divided by 16 is 2. So that's great. We have these texts. Now we're going to just copy them quickly, and I'm going to fast forward. All right, we copied them. We'll give them text color fade, or actually we'll go to the home pricing icon. Okay, now we're gonna give them text color fade, and this will go to all of them. Perfect. And then we're gonna remove these ones, and now we just want to fix this padding. So we're going to remove this row, and I think this is looking good. Next we have this features section. Now I'm gonna fasten this process by not copying the content and just focusing on getting the layout right, because again, the content is something that is handled by a content person, so always remember that. Text color fade for this one, this is correct, and there is no high margin, there's a very big margin here. I'm going to remove it. And we have home pricing, text item. It has an icon, but why is the icon dark? Oh, that's an icon image. So let's perhaps get this icon, copy as SVG, and we'll place it here. Let's preserve the size, and let's call this icon 20. This is something that we should have done before, but perhaps we can use it now. So now we have icon 20. This just gives it 20 width, perhaps 20 height as well, so it's square. And this will duplicate 6 times. I don't want this old layout. So this will duplicate 6 times, and we'll make this grid into a grid of 2 columns and 1 row. It automatically generates more rows, and that's basically it. So here we have this paragraph, it's 16, and this is also 16. So we can set this to 1 rem actually, since this is only used here for now. And then I'm gonna set this to normal so that it's looking clean. Finally, we can go to the footer. What we have in the footer is something different here. So we have copyright, social links, back to top, and the logo. So let's do that. Let's collapse the navigator and let's see how this is built. So we have padding vertical, great, and then padding bottom. This section we don't need. Line divider, perhaps that's the top thing, and then this will be on the top. This is the bottom. The line divider, actually, instead of a line divider, let's just see how this is done. So we can wrap this in a div block, and we can call this div block container or footer component wrapper. And this will have a line from the top, so we can give it that white line. Is it white? It's the neutral base color, so we go to that color, and then here we will just copy these. We can keep this one, that's okay. We can worry about the spacing. Again, the content is not something we should very much worry about. We should worry about our spacing. So this, instead of padding medium, it will be padding small, padding X small. Very nice. And then here, this will be space between, yes, and just have one more button. So we'll just have one more link block, or actually let's make it a button and we can style it later on, or give it the functionality of scrolling back to the top. Let's see how to do that. So this will say back to top, and this will, let's give this section, we'll come back to this image. I don't like how it's looking. Let's go to this section. I'm going to give it an ID of top header, and this will basically scroll to the top. Easy. Next, we will just give some spacing between. I really don't like this padding top stuff, but since we're gonna use them, but I like to use div blocks instead of wrappers. So I'm gonna unwrap this and use a div block here, and this will be spacer medium. That's 22 rems. And then I have a glimpse. Actually, this is an image, so perhaps we can copy as SVG as well and add it here. Now, another way to add SVGs, which I really like, is using an app called SVG Import. So SVG Import is an app that allows you to paste in the SVG in the custom element format. So it's not custom code, it's just basically a custom element. Let me show you how. So this is the element, and you can see it has the path in it, and it's more like an original element on the page. This is manipulated through attributes, as you can see here. So that's how this is done. And yeah, you can easily change the color, put the current color, put an inherit color. That's up to you. Finally, we don't have that much space from the bottom, so we can go to this padding vertical and perhaps remove this and say just footer. And the footer will only have, let's say, 1 rem from the bottom. And that's basically it. Now that we have this done, we can start checking the tablet. So in tablet mode, first, let's go back. So a review is necessary. So always a review is necessary. Let's go to the nav bar logo. Since we played with this icon embed custom class, it messed up our logo. Let's go back to the logo. Let's see the size of it. So here the size is 76. So we can go to the nav bar for logo link and size it with 76. That will be 4.75 frames. That's great. And let's go to the span and let's fix it up. So we want to reduce the height of it. So I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna set it to custom, and the width will be 100%, but the height will be 80%, and should cover though. So to make this smaller, basically, we're just gonna reduce the font size. So I will get it to be, say, 6.6, just 6. 6 is good. And yeah, that's looking more like it. Now we can check tablet. So in tablet, perhaps we can adjust this further by reducing the size to, let's say, 4, and less, like 3. Here we can just see how things are getting. So this is good, and these are all looking good. Okay, we can say tablet is good. Tablet is my least favorite, so I tend to not like it. So let's reduce the size of the span even further here, perhaps 1 or 2. And here we're actually going to make the span into an inline block, or actually just a block. We're going to give it a height. So let's see how it's done here. So we're going to give it a height of 100 and a width of 100. And all this text will be centered, including this one. Let me auto from both sides. I'm going to remove this padding. Yeah, I think this is looking good. Next, we just want to give it some spacing. So perhaps 24, a glimpse into the extraordinary. There's 16 perhaps. The text also needs some more spacing. So we'll say 150 or 120%. Now this is looking more like what I have in the design. So that's great. We are gonna wrap things now. Wrap up things. This will be centered. And I think we already centered this in mobile. So I like to use the mobile landscape to set up stuff for the mobile because it has more width. But it's always good to check back on the mobile, make sure things are in place. Now this title is too big, and it's getting out of proportion sometimes. But we might fix this in another video. We'll learn more stuff. So this text here will be 24. So we'll change this to 24, which is 1.5 frames. It will also be centered. So this is centered. These images are gonna change. So what we have is that one image is at the top, one image is at the bottom. This is something that we can perhaps make this all into one grid. So let's see how that is done. But this section has an animation, right? Where is the animation? Yeah, it had an animation at some point. Oh, there it is. So for this one, since we got this from the site builder, it changed some class names, and these are the original class names that we need. So I'm just going to copy these class names. So this will be the text name. I'm just going to add it here, or actually let's just rename this since it's just only one element. Go back to the code. I have this section. So instead of renaming this, actually, let me get this section name from here. So this is the section in question. And I'll go back to my code and I'll just rename this into the name of my section. And that's all. Great. One more thing would be to make a grid layout. So I'm going to remove this margin button, and feature images will have is a grid. So I'll just add the text header inside this text inside, and I will span it 2 columns so that in mobile I can manipulate this as I want, which is making this last and also spanning 2 columns, and this one also spans 2 columns, and this is more like it. Amazing. Let's keep going. Featured works, and then we will split this into 1 column and just remove this ratio that we set up on desktop, sorry. Just make it auto so that they're all auto. And perhaps also the image, since it's cover. Oh, it's already set with the ratio, but let's set the cover to be top or bottom so that we see this nice lady here. And we continue. No, everyone's gonna think I'm a pervert, but I don't care. So 80 divided by 16 is 5 frames. I think the spacing is good between sections. However, I see a little large space here, so I'm gonna remove this one. Button group I don't need. I didn't even see those. Continuing, I have this text, which is heading 3, which turns to 24, just like the other one. But I'm gonna set this on heading style h3. It's gonna be 24, which is 1.5 frames. And that's great. Now back to my text here. Since everything here is centered, I can just select home header content and center everything. This button here, button group, we can give it a combo class as center. This is something that comes from the style guide, so we know that's there. Next, we continue with the pricing. So this won't be sticky anymore. So let's just make sure that's done, because otherwise it will overlap with other content. So we'll just make it position static. And then we'll go to the parent element and make it into 1 column that is centered, and that has the letter centered as well. And actually just make it flex centered so it takes the full width. This text is 24. This text is 16. This is correct. This will also wrap to 1 center, so that's great. And then these will be in 1 row, will be left aligned and won't be centered. Great. Here we will center everything as well from here. The back to the top, so let's rearrange this. So what happens here, we have the back to the top button. Let's change this into a grid of 3. So this one will span 3, and this one actually 1 row. I'm just gonna set manual placement, so I just want this to be here. I want this to be here. Yeah, looks more like it. And this won't be there, so we can hide this in desk in mobile. Let's click on it. Go to the footer image wrapper. We can say we have the combo class, which is hide mobile landscape, and that hides it. This button has some color, right? Where's this color coming from? So let's go back to the desktop. Just remove this background color and make it transparent. transparent. Why do I have the caps lock on? Here is center. This shouldn't have happened. So we'll remove that. Go back to mobile. Here we say is centered mobile. So this is something only happens on mobile and not on desktop, which is not what I want. See here, desktop is fine, tablet is not that fine. Let's also get this one row here. Be generous. And this actually, let's give it one. Yes. All right, so this is looking good, and everything is set up as it should. It's a mobile responsive website. It's not the perfect website, but given the time frame, I think we did great by making this very quickly. Let's publish, and I'll leave this as a clonable so you guys can clone it, check it out, play around with it. I'm curious to see the animation that was set up by GSAP. So let's see that one. So this is the website. The animation is cool. Everything's done well. It's clean. It's well done. And if I test it in Google Lighthouse, let's give it a test. Quick test, see how it performs. So testing. Now it's always good to revise the site, send it to friends and colleagues so that they can check it out. Do revise it from a lot of devices, desktop, mobile, tablet, anything that you have. Oh, nice. We have a nice score. We failed on some accessibility stuff for contrast ratio, but this is something that is because of the split type, and this is something that we can look into. We need to add a lang attribute. That's okay. Links don't have a name. Some links don't have a name. That's the logo. And heading element are not in sequential order. These are minor issues that always can be fixed. However, the performance best practice in SEO is the most important. SEO is down because we're using the Webflow domain, and document doesn't have a meta description also. So these are the setups that we're missing. However, we can say we have a first version of a website that is looking good. Thank you for watching.